How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the Liberty Hour, streaming through Spreaker Studio, the 16 Jackson AJ1 Twitter account, and the A2 Jack YouTube channel. I'm back with my friend Cameron Harr, and we were just starting to talk about his 2-year mission trip to Chile, and he was talking about the benefits of studying abroad, and I'll go ahead and let you finish what you were saying on that, Cameron. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I was just saying that I think it's something that I think everybody should live in a foreign country. I think it's something that really changes your life. And study abroad is I think that's great, but serving for 2 years, just serving the people in another country and living there for 2 years and learning their language is even a step further. And I think my favorite part about it was just realizing that we're all human, because I think a lot of the time people will demonize other cultures that they don't understand. And I think when you go somewhere and you live with the people for 2 years and you really start to love them, I think it changes your whole perspective on everything, and you kind of realize that we are just one big human family. And even though their circumstances are so different and literally the opposite side of Earth, they still have the same worries, the same concerns, the same priorities. It's just amazing seeing how similar and how we all experience the same problems and we're all going through the same struggles. And I thought that was really cool, and it really opens your widens your perspective on humanity in general, which I think is something that more people should experience. I think it was really cool.
Yeah, I think that's great, and getting into that, jumping into it. The first question I have, and we'll go through the whole experience, but the first question I have actually has to do with when you learned that that's where you were going to Chile. What was your initial reaction back when you learned that was where you were going for your mission?
First, I was remind me where Chile is again, because I knew it was in South America. I remember I'd actually done I did 2 of my Spanish projects on Chile, actually, when I was in high school. So it was super random that they called me to serve there. And first thing I did was run to the map and make sure I knew where it was. And then after that, I just wanted to literally just Google everything about Chile. And I was just immediately so enthusiastic about going. And I was super excited just to go to a new culture and meet new people. And I was just super excited about it.
Gotcha. Awesome. And so where exactly was it in Chile, as I attempt to pull up the map here of Chile so I can get a general idea? I know where it's at. I know it's the big skinny country on the west side of South America. Yeah. I just, I don't know much of the geography of cities and stuff like that. So I was going to ask you, where in Chile was it that you were mainly at?
So I was in they call it the Sexta Región, the 6th region of Chile. That's kind of their state. I was right south of Santiago, so in the southern half of the country, but at the very top of the southern half, between the cities of Santiago and Talca, if you see Talca on there.
Yeah, I do.
Talca, spent some time in Santa Cruz and Curitico and Rancagua. I got to kind of be in Santiago, in the outskirts of Santiago, in a city called Buin, in a hospital, San Francisco. So when you go on a mission, you have a mission president, and it's usually it's an adult with his wife, and they leave their jobs for 2 years, and they pay for themselves to go down there. The church doesn't pay them; they use their own savings to pay to spend time down there. And it's kind of someone that kind of oversees the missionary work down there, and they kind of direct you, and they're in charge of telling you what area you're going to stay in, what city you're going to stay in, who your companion is going to be, and they kind of just teach you and kind of guide you in the experience and help you. They help you learn how to teach, how to use your time wisely. So basically, he had me move around and do a few different cities. And I had a bunch of companions. That was another cool part, was I got to live with people from Brazil, people from the Philippines, from Uruguay, Argentina, Colombia, Mexico, from every country you can think of. And that was super cool too, to live with people of other cultures and get to talk to them and become close to them.
I'm looking on the map, and it looks like I was going to say, in terms of the differences between the distance between Chile to the Ecuador versus where we're at to the Ecuador, seems like it's a little bit more south, which means I would assume that it was a little bit chilly down there at times.
It's a little bit chilly in Chile. It's a little bit cooler than the climate that we were in. It snowed one time when I was there. But in general, the area that I was in, it was really similar to Lincoln, actually, because there's a lot of vineyards, which is what our area is known for, right? And Sacramento is known for the vineyards. And there was a lot of agriculture. We were kind of in the agricultural part of Chile. So there were a lot of people that worked in the fields, a lot of people there was actually the majority of people that would work in the fields over the summer. And that was really cool to see. That was another cool part, was just meeting the different people, because here in the United States it's kind of a whole different scene on the agricultural side, but there were like the majority of people where I was worked out in the fields, and they would go out there and work like 12-hour days out in the fields just picking the fruit. And they're just such hard workers. It was super cool to see. And a lot of Haitians and Venezuelans actually too, because Chile like is a big country for produce. They have a lot of produce. So a lot of countries with struggling economies, a lot of the people, when they flee those countries to find a better economic situation, they'll go to Chile because they know that there's always work out in the fields. So a lot of people will go there.
A question that I ask most people when they come on has to do with culture shock of going to college, because in most times Lincoln not being the most urban area, but still being semi-urban with roughly about 45 to 50,000 population. But in your case, it's much different than that because you obviously went to another country, so it literally is a culture shock there. So I guess my question is. How much of a culture shock was it for you initially, and how long did it take you to kind of get developed or get to know like other people and kind of become part of their culture as well? Like, explain to me how that whole process took about for you.
Yeah, so that was weird for me because honestly, it was a lot bigger of a culture shock coming back to the United States than it was going there, I wasn't expecting that. Like when I went there, I was really excited, right? You show up, you're excited. And you're just excited to just hop right into it, right? You're getting to a new country, and you're honestly so worried about learning the language and figuring out the different cultural things, all the differences, and just kind of figuring out how you're going to survive down there by yourself for 2 years that I didn't pay as much attention to like the culture shock because everything is so new. But I think coming back was when I realized it the most, because I came home and like everything was just so different. Like I just appreciated everything so much more. Like just having my family there was like just so like impactful, and I just wanted to like spend time with my family, and I just appreciated everything so much more. Like you really learn to appreciate stuff a lot more after living especially in like South America for 2 years.
So I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, that's it. I was just gonna say just that.
Okay. What I was gonna ask you is I'm sure when it comes to your mission, you have a lot of responsibilities that you have to fulfill. So I was going to ask you what were the main responsibilities that you had to fulfill? What was the typical day like for you during your mission?
Yeah, so honestly, we do a lot of things. For the most part, you spend most of your time teaching people about the gospel, about the church, about the teachings that we have. Mm-hmm. And we do that in a lot of service as well. So especially where we were in a really rural area. Like I said, we were out in the fields for a lot of the time, or like most people worked out in the fields. So we actually did a lot of service. I helped build some houses. We'd go out in the field sometimes and help people set up their little farms and stuff. But on a normal day, we'd get up at like 7:00, and then you'd eat breakfast and shower and be ready and dressed by 8:30. And then around 8:30, you just study the scriptures, the Bible, and some other scriptures that we have for around an hour just by yourself. And then the whole time in your mission, you're with one companion, 1 to 2 people and it rotates throughout the mission. But you're with a companion. Then after that, for an hour, you do companionship study, and you just kind of talk to your friend and explain what you read about, like what your thoughts are. And then you kind of go over what you're going to do that day, and you kind of make a plan for everything that you're going to do that day. And then usually like 10:30 you leave the house and you don't come back until like 10 at night. So you're out there for like 12 hours just in the street, talking to people in the street, teaching people in their houses, visiting some of the members, just walking around, doing service, just doing everything you can. So it's a busy day. At the beginning, when I first got there, it was hard because it's a long day to be out in the sun for 12 hours just talking to people. And you kind of have to take time to adjust to that lifestyle, but it was really cool.
You mentioned, for most of the day going out there and teaching people the Bible and stuff like that. Obviously, I'm sure, most people that are in Chile don't speak English. So explain to me how that worked. Did you have to learn their language? They're like translators, interpreters. Did you explain to me how that went about, how you got to where people understood, what you were saying? Explain to me all about that.
Oh yeah, so I am fluent in Spanish now, but when I first got there, I obviously wasn't. So right when I left, I actually went to Mexico City for a month and a half, for like 6 weeks. And I went to Mexico because they have a little missionary training center where they just teach you basically Spanish, and they taught us the basics on how to teach people about the gospel, about Christ, right? How to introduce Christ to people. And that, but you don't learn a lot of Spanish in a month and a half, right? Like we all took Spanish in high school, and you don't really learn that much in a classroom. So when I first got there, my first companion was from Mexico. He was from Juarez, and he's one of my best friends. I love him. Other Gutierrez. His name is Sam Gutierrez, and basically he spoke Spanish obviously because he's from Mexico. So he did most of the talking my first 3 months that I was with him, but that whole time I would practice, and he'd give me a lot of opportunities to try to talk to people. And when they didn't understand what I was saying, he'd jump in and he'd explain what I was trying to say. And he basically just helped teach me too. Because when you're living with someone, I lived with them for like my first 3 months. And when you're living with someone that doesn't speak English, you kind of have to just learn to communicate with them. And just basically that, just like being immersed, like submerged in it, like there's no option but to learn it. I could hold my own and I could speak after about 5 months. So after about 5 months, I got put with another white missionary from Utah, and he didn't speak a lot of Spanish. It was just kind of me. So after about 5 months, I was by myself, just like speaking Spanish, living in the country. So it took about 5 months to be able to like communicate myself like really like with like reliably, like not having any problems. I obviously wasn't like fluent maybe, but I had no troubles communicating myself. And after about 9 months to a year, you're pretty good. Like you might still have a little bit of an accent, but you understand most of what's going on.
Well, that's awesome. Another thing that came to my mind too while you were saying that is, like in America, or especially at least in general areas, whenever somebody tries to sell something to someone, or even preach their religion to other people, well, some people will listen. Most people will kind of just shun it away, kind of walk away. Some people even just get offended by it, and that's a big issue in today's culture as well. When it came to you being out there and trying to preach the Bible and your religion to other people, were people more receptive to that, and were people pretty kind? Did you notice, was there anybody that acted any way hostile at all, or were people like pretty calm, pretty cool? Explain to me like what that was like.
Oh yeah, and it's like anywhere. There's people that are really friendly and people that aren't friendly in all parts of the world, right? So I had people spit in my face. I had people
all the
time. It happened pretty regular. Like it wasn't anything surprising. And I think that was one of the things that like impacted me the most when I was down there, was just the amount of rejection that you go through. Because we would try to talk to everybody that we met. Like, and I don't know, a lot of people that don't know like what missionaries do and a lot about our church think that we're trying to like force our religion down people's throats, when really that's not our intention. And you know that, right? Like You're not a member of our church, but you know that that's not our intent, right? We're just trying to help.
I'm not religious, but I respect,
Yeah, so that's like our goal isn't to force our religion down people's throat, but it's really just to like help people and talk to people, meet people, and share our experiences with people. So you get people that are really hostile. Like I don't know how many times people told us just terrible things, but they didn't meet other people that are honestly at low points in their life and they need help and they need guidance. And there's people that like that was one of the coolest and like most emotional parts, is when you meet these families that have no idea who you are, but they take you into their house and they want to feed you and they want to make you comfortable and they want to talk to you and hear from you, and they accept you as like one of their own, right? Like there's still people there's a few families that still call me their son because they just like love me so much and you become so close to them. And I think that's a really cool experience, to just be in a completely different culture, talk to someone on the street, and all of a sudden they just become this huge part of your life, and it changes your life and their life for forever. And really it's an experience that nothing really compares to. Like there's nothing that compares to it. It's super cool. I still have super close relationships with so many of the people that I met down there. And there are people that were complete strangers that I met on the street, but they just take you in. And it's one of the coolest experiences that you can possibly live, I think. It's really cool.
I've got a few more questions for Cameron relating to his experience in Chile, and then we'll get into some things going on in U.S. politics. I'll obviously ask about a couple of things Chile-wise as well, but I am running out of time on this part, so I'm going to go ahead and end it here. We'll be right back with part 3 of the Liberty Hour. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in so far. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.